Okay, I'm started, but I'm really scared still.
All right, yeah, you should be scared because this is going to be either hilarious or terrible.
Okay.
Uh, so in front of you is an old-timey radio. You tune the dial with great anticipation as the fuzz clears and you hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to KSP2 Adventures. We're about to witness the ultimate space race. Today we're exploring the low-gravity environment of
Are we
Minimus,
in
where our intrepid
Ireland? Like,
explorers..."
what is this?
It's the old-timey radio. It's a radio announcer.
Des has just been working this in front of the mirror, like, for the
I,
longest time.
I may have
Lex,
been working on it a
Lex
little
is
bit.
completely silent. He's just like, what is this?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to KSP2 Adventures. We're about to witness the ultimate space race. Today we're exploring low-gravity environments in Minimus, where our intrepid explorers will push their rovers to the limit in pursuit of the land speed record. But before we start the engines and kick up the dust, let's take a moment to appreciate the ingenuity and innovation that has gone into these mighty machines. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and join us as we take a closer look at the magnificent rovers and brilliant minds behind them. This is KSP2 Adventures, the space race to the land speed record. And the radio fades.
Well, thank God for the radio fading, finally. That's all I can say about that.
I will just quickly run over the main objectives.
Yeah.
We'll go over... I don't think we need to cover the rules in detail. We have
Yes,
more
we do.
detail than we need to share, because...
Okay.
But here's the basics. You have a team who has set the speed record on Minimus, or on Kerbin, and they are interested... They're paying your space agency to set the speed record on Minimus, in this low-gravity environment of Minimus. So you have to get the team there, let them set the speed record, and then get them back safely. And that's the basic premise.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So the first video that I'm going to show you today, in terms of my run, a lot of trial and error, to say the least. So anywho, so the first one is what I call the egg, essentially. And I built like a rover inside like a cargo payload container. And I was trying to hatch this thing using a rocket. So I'm like trying to push out. You can see I'm trying to push out the rover. Essentially, the wheels are
It's stuck.
The wheels are stuck. Yeah, like it was definitely. I did do it. I did do it in the end run, but it definitely the wheels are stuck. You see how the wheels are glitching out. Eventually, I do kind of unstuck the rover essentially, and so I do actually get a land.
Are you dragging it with you?
Yeah. So I get a
Drags
land
it with
speed
him.
test here of about. So I'm like, okay, because the thing is I'm putting these rockets on the top of the rocket. Because essentially, I want the rockets on the top to be pushing, like to create essentially like artificial gravity, right? That's essentially what I want to do here. And so I set this land speed record on Kerbin. So I'm like, if I can test it on Kerbin, I can test it anywhere, right? That's kind of the name of the game here.
You're
So
doing
I'm
pretty
like,
good there. That's
yeah,
400.
it's pretty speedy. Pretty speedy.
That's fast.
So anyway, eventually I decide to build a rocket that launches my Kerbins into space. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. Everything's going well. Everything's going fantastic. You see, I go with the same space plane design so I can land back at the KSP essentially. Sorry, you were saying?
What is this? Like, what am I looking at? There are 3 rockets here?
So there's 3 rockets at the bottom. Yeah. And then essentially I do start flipping uncontrollably. And it just like, I kid you not, I probably spent a day alone on just trying to flip like this thing over. So I'm like, okay, eventually I do get it. So I'm like, okay, I'm at Minimus right now. I'm coming down and I'm ready to land essentially. Now here, I'm just going to pause this here for a second. So if you notice, I actually scrapped the wings completely. I was like, okay, so I'm going to scrap the wings completely. This is no longer going to be a space plane. It is going to be a rocket, right? That was like, all right, this is where I'm going to go with things. I forgot to take off one of the landing gears. So you see this landing gear right here. And so I deploy the landing gears, right? I'm like deploy. And then this thing just pops out of the rocket. I'm like, oh, okay, cool beans. I guess I got this random wheeled landing gear essentially. So
Where's your
yep.
Where's your rover? Is it inside the...
It's inside the payload. So this is a payload bay essentially with the rover inside. And I'm coming down now. The worst of it all was I was coming down at like one of the most mountainous areas in Minimus. Like, look at these mountains. Like, do you think I'm going to ascend like any land speed records with these mountains, let alone land a rocket?
There's a chance.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, you fall down.
He's got a chance.
Confidence. So eventually I kind of just like bounce around the place until I kind of find like, or I decide to just crash the rocket completely, you know, one of the two options. So this next video I titled, I'm giving her all she got. She's got, Captain. So I eventually unload the payload, right? The rover just doesn't work. Like, straight up, like, first of all, the rocket is completely, so I'm like, okay, I'll just use it as a rover. But like the wheels are not activating. Like, I'm trying to activate these rockets. I'm trying to activate everything. But the rover just doesn't rove, essentially. Like, the wheels do not work.
Why are they glitching like that?
Dude, I don't even know.
What are they doing?
I don't even know. So essentially, I decide to actually turn this into a rocket again and use these like side sparks rockets essentially as like my land speed. Like, I'm so desperate at this point because I kid you not, guys.
The wheels they're
like
breaking.
When I'm doing this.
I have the same problem with my wheels.
Yeah. They are breaking and fixing again. What is?
Yeah, the wheels on that particular wheel type just behaves really weird.
Yeah. So eventually, okay. Luckily, this run I actually did get a stat sheet in, so I completely dismantled the entire thing, and I'm like, okay, starting from scratch one again. So this is my new rover, essentially.
That looks like one of mine.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
You did a mini rocket.
So I'm like, screw payloads. I'm going to build a rocket, essentially, with the rover inside of it and detach it halfway through. So these are some of my stats, essentially. I decided to take a photo of that, as well as the Kerbals now involved. Oh, my goodness. Okay, you got to understand something, guys, here. When I'm doing these runs, I am doing them at like 1 a.m. I am so tired. I am so tired. And I was like, okay, I don't want any Kerbals in the grumble seats, so no Kerbals in there. Which they could have been. They could have been. But so then I'm like, okay, I need a Kerbal to go in the rover, so I need space for that Kerbal to come back into the space shuttle to get back to Kerbin. So I leave, essentially, with all this space, this is what 1 a.m. gets you. With 1 a.m, I get 2 Kerbals.
I've had to redo entire missions because I didn't fill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
been there.
Kerbals when I could have had like 5. I decided to have 2 because, like, why not, right? So anyway, that's
second place tonight. This is gonna be great.
So I launched the rocket. Everything's oh. Do you know what that is right there? That 57 meters, that little square there? That's one of the wings just detaching on the runway. Like, no big deal. So I'm like, I can fly this rocket with 2. So this has 2 wings, 2 kind of like stabilizers essentially. But it does pretty well. It does fairly well. We actually get into a decent orbit essentially with the rocket itself. And then I'm actually decided to use hydrogen engines here.
I love how you've got rockets burning inside of other rockets.
Oh, 100%. So these are hydrogen
That's
engines,
not dangerous.
They're super effective for our orbital turns and orbital burns. Okay, stop laughing, you two. So be impressed by my hydrogen engines.
I use hydrogen engines.
Yeah. So eventually I do actually intersect with Minimus again, which is really awesome. I'm like, oh, great. I finally did this. Like, I actually did the same thing, Lexi boy, you did, where I was chasing Minimus. I chased it. Like, so here's Minimus, here's me. I'm chasing it, trying to catch up to it. Lots of turns there. So eventually I do come to this point where I'm like, okay, so I just want to pause it here for a second and talk about this.
A lot of stress.
Yeah. So what would happen essentially is these 3 rockets would like bend during launch and just like completely like break off. I'm like, hey, I'm making sure this thing is reinforced. So essentially what happens here is I'm like, okay, I need to land the rover. So I'm going to explain because you're going to see it happen. I need to land the rover like forward, like front, like upwards, right? And the only way to do that is to detach all 3 of these bottom rockets, which have like plenty of fuel in them still, this bottom rocket, and then like somehow flip the rocket essentially so that the rover lands on its belly, right? So I'm coming down. And then all of a sudden you just kind of see this like, there really could only be one way to do. Oh yeah. So I'm flipping a whole bunch here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Okay, so I'll explain here. So yeah, so essentially what happens here is I'm like, okay, I'm coming down, I land, and then I'm like,
Oh,
screw
no.
it. You know what? I can do this. I can do this. So I just detach everything. I'm like, I'm just like, screw it. I can do it. I'm gonna land this rover. So, look at these rockets just going all over the place. I'm like, yeah,
I love it. He's litho breaking.
yeah.
On Minimus.
So I eventually do. So this next video we call Autobots roll out. So like I just want you to imagine like Optimus Prime saying Autobots roll out, because that's what happens essentially. I do actually land the rover on Minimus, which is pretty great.
Crying.
Right? Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that, guys. Stop laughing, okay? I'm pretty proud of what I've done.
Good job.
No, this is awesome.
Thanks, Dad. I appreciate it.
This is like, if there's anything that is Kerbal, this is Kerbal.
Yeah. So I eventually walk over my Kerbal. Now, keep in mind, there's like, I could have had tons of space, right? But I decided, because it's freaking 1 a.m. when I'm doing this. So this is my.
I love he's got little cans flying around.
This is my This is my attempt, guys. 13 meters per second. Here we go. Okay, get ready. Get ready to witness. Like, Orville and Wilbur Wright have nothing on me when it comes to speed. So here we go. I'm accelerating very slowly. The other thing I learned about was like what the friction, like things and the torque and all this jazz. I learned a little bit about that, but essentially, so I'm just in case you guys are wondering. Yes, I am out of control at this point.
I can tell. I've driven on Minimus, but you're still touching the ground.
Touching the ground.
You're still 11.1, 11.2,
yeah. So
and 11.4.
So I'm coming in. I got 2 tires on the ground. Wait for it. Here it comes. And
You're gonna launch. You're gonna launch.
So technically speaking, I'm on the ground with the 2 tires. Now, 1 tire's inside Minimus, obviously. I mean, that's even more inside the ground. I think I should get bonus points for that.
Technically speaking, though, when you first leave the ground the first time, that's when it stops counting.
So I eventually do that, and then I'm like, okay, well, oh, by the way, so I try to EVA this Kerbal again. This Kerbal is permanently locked to the seat because of the separator here. So like I said, I tried to EVA a bunch of times, and he's permanently locked there. So there's a Kerbal still on Minimus, by the way, just in case you're wondering. So I eventually do decide to leave. So yeah, I can't leave. Like I can't leave this Kerbal seat no matter how I try, no matter what I do. So I try a bunch of other attempts, but eventually I don't get it. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. So this is me leaving essentially. Is I'm like, okay, let's get going. So I'm like, if I can bounce myself.
Yep, totally.
Upwards, and
Come on.
wait for
Almost.
it. Gotta get a real good bounce.
Yeah, just flip over and yeah, there you go.
There we go. And then
There you go.
Yay.
Congratulations.
So I take off, and eventually I land back, obviously, at Kerbin with 1 Kerbal.
All right. So
That is my run.
awesome.
That is the story
Awesome.
of Pear trying to set the land speed record at Minimus.
Okay, I'm gonna go next. And I'm just going to do a very basic, like minimal run. So I'm gonna put 3 Kerbals on Minimus, and 2 of them. One's gonna be the pilot. One's gonna be the 2 are gonna be the team. So I'm just starting with a super basic. Let's see here. Here I'm building the rover. This is just like I literally want to do this just to have something that a run that works, so that I can come back.
That's a pretty intense rover. So that's a very small little rover you got cooking.
Very small. It's very
Why
small.
you got the lander legs?
So this is going on the side. Let me pause here. Let me pause. Where's a good screenshot? Here, you can see that it's strapped to the side of this.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to pop it off the side, but I'm going to deploy the legs first, so that when the legs are out, they will like hit the ground first, and it will fall forward.
It'll fall forward. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm liking it.
Yep. But like, Well, it's going to get interesting because so I'm just going to build a very, very basic, and I'm going to launch this, and there's a problem. Okay, so here's my first launch.
That's a very like simple rocket. Like just
Very simple. And it's going to go very badly, very quickly. And you'll see why. Okay, come on, launch. Okay, so first of all, that happens. I have problems throughout this entire video with my engines actually, like they
not
staged,
deploying.
they just don't turn on. And I have no idea why. It happens here and it happens in a different run. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And in a second, I'm going to hit activate and it's just going to go. And I don't understand. So anyway, I hit activate and it goes. And then it's going up, it's no longer going up. Oh.
So did you have the same issues? So this game seems to have issues, I find, when you use like, so for instance, you're using a straight rocket, right? But
Yep.
like for the rover attachment, you just had like it on the one side, right?
Right.
So I find that rockets typically, if you don't have like a symmetry, that they have issues with themselves.
Yeah, so I have major issues with symmetry on this launch because as I'm going up, let's see, it starts, you can see the rover is pulling it down.
Yeah.
And I completely lose control.
Did you ever think of using fins?
I did not use fins. So here I'm trying to recover, but what I did is I went back to not completely back to the drawing board. So this rocket is unstable and I'm going to play this little clip here of I'm about to do a burn, and I'm trying to position the rocket so that when I burn, it's going to go in the direction that I want. But off on the I don't know, navigation ball on the left.
Nav ball. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that I'm having a hard time keeping it on, and it just starts spinning out of control. So I'm like, okay, I got to balance this more.
Yeah, that can be a problem with these rockets.
So I go back. I abort that one and then I test that, my recovery, that the thing's actually going to work and land. But then I go back and I just add more fuel on the outside here. I move the legs over, and where is it? Right here. I just add these.
You're just giving it some better center of thrust.
Yep.
Or center of mass.
Tanks on the outside, and it's still going to be super awkward, but it will work. And so this launch actually ends up being my final run. Okay. So my 36, was it 36? Oh, I'm trying to make sure everything's lined up. 3622. Okay. 3622. So this is the one that works. It gets really interesting because I think I actually flip out and recover on the way up here.
That's pretty cool. I've had that happen on a couple of runs.
Yeah, I'm like double checking everything, making sure I'm still pointed up, and everything is good. I'm starting to, and I think I turn right about now, maybe. I'll skip forward by 30 seconds. Yeah. And yeah, here we go. Here's the flip. I start to turn a little bit and it just goes out of control. I'm only 6,000 meters up and it just...
gravity turn here, Des?
I was.
I have so much trouble with those.
And it just... I was like, okay, well, but I have enough delta V, so it doesn't really matter, and I try to recover, and I'm just trying to hold it, and I'm going a little bit more sideways than I want at this point. And the whole thing is just kind of... And then I flip the other way. But I'm still going up. So, hey, what are you going to do? I think I almost recover there, and I don't quite. I have to flip around one more time. But anyway, eventually I make it up. Now, the interesting thing is all of my burns are... I stage there. Okay, so now I have this maneuver node that I'm going to do. And I calculate the maneuver node. I'm circularizing my orbit. When I actually do the burn... the maneuver nodes never come out correct because I'm always off target because this thing is so unstable that you can see that the rocket is not pointed at the maneuver node. And I can't get it to stay on the maneuver node no matter what I do.
I'm impressed you landed with that.
It's easier on Minimus because the gravity's so low.
Yeah, that's true.
So now this is where I'm going to land, right up there around the periaps. Pretty close. And I do make it. It's pretty awesome.
This feels very, very familiar.
Yeah.
I landed very close to this a number of times.
Man, that's quite the rocket you got. So are you going to detach that fuel tank?
Yeah, I want to show you because I'm trying to use all the Delta V that's left in this fuel tank. Because I want to save
the area you've decided to land on. Like, it's quite flat.
Very flat. Which is why I think I got up to 19.2.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna fast forward, but I drop this. I just drop it off, and it goes straight down and lands vertically. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I'll just land next to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's great. But so I'm landing, and then right here, I realize it's falling over.
Oh no.
So I'm like, well, that's not gonna work.
That's funny.
So it does fall over, and then I do land. And then, of course, right here, what am I supposed to do before I drop the rover?
EVA?
Deploy those legs, and I don't. I stage the rover off here without the legs.
Nice.
And it just lands, and I'm like, well, I guess it didn't flip over backwards. So, but now I have to take off again.
Oh, and I love it. You just push the rover.
Kind of.
It works.
Well, how do you? Yeah, you got to do that again, right? Like you got to redo that.
Yeah, I have to redo that. So I load the save and
Those
I come back.
legs are a pretty smart move.
Yeah. But it does. Oh, I skipped the. But it does work. So they come off and then it rests against
That's
the
1,000 IQ play right there.
Lander. So then I do still have to take off very carefully, but it does do the right thing, and then I kind of sort of lose control. But last second, I get it back.
Good job.
It almost there. So I do land. So now I don't know if you noticed in the background there, the rover is moving.
I see that.
So I'm gonna get a Kerbal out. Kerbal gets out, and I'm like, "Hey, screenshot! Yay! Look! Oh wait, run after the rover, and then I can't get it to stop." And it's going faster than I am, and I'm trying to eventually I get in front of it, and I'm like, and I just push it.
Try this twice.
I just push it, and eventually I get it to stop.
Set the land speed record by pushing the rover.
I do eventually get in it somehow. Okay, here we go. I think this is my.
So why did you choose purple and blue this time?
I don't know. I was just in the mood for purple and blue, I suppose. Okay. Here's the run. Video? Hello? Oh, there it goes. Yeah, 19.2. Yeah, that was the run. It just basically nose down and nosedived, and eventually I do recover this. And that's why the end is the end-to-end start to stop time is like minutes. So you'll notice I'm flying my periaps. First of all, I just did a direct intercept. I didn't circularize or anything. I just went in the atmosphere. So I'm 36,000 meters above the ground. So I'm getting some resistance. So I'm aerobraking.
Yes, you are.
And I'm flying right over KSP. So I'm like, I just need to time this so that when I come back around,
you're good.
I'm good. And so
that's a nice orbit.
I'm burning what fuel I have left. I'm coming around, and I do eventually. Okay, now I'm trying to aim this.
Oh,
and there it is. 30. It ends up at 31.9.
Yeah, that's going to be better than me.
So I can see, and that is my run. That is my official run. I get two Kerbals there, two Kerbals back, 19.2 meters per second. Total mission time is 80 days and some odd hours. So not great.
All right. So
awesome.
I have the essence of a very simple little
Do you
rocket.
plan on like burning yourself into Minimus with this rocket?
So at the core of this is a rocket that involves 4 guys strapped to the top of a tank. And there's a couple of ion drives, which is the final idea here. They didn't do much, but they helped a little bit, so I decided to use them. And then at the front of that is a nuclear generator, because these things take a whole lot of power to operate.
Are those the ion drives on the top there?
Yep. You can imagine these poor Kerbals are getting horribly irradiated as they're doing this.
Oh yeah, they're.
And then I have some little solid rocket boosters on them, which if you follow are a little bit useless actually, but this still causes a little fun idea I came up with. So if you look...
You're going for 4 there? 4 seats?
Yeah, 4 seats. Command guy at the front and everybody else behind. And so that's the basic idea behind this rocket. It's going to just accelerate as fast as it can go. The ion drives are just there to put some downward pressure. That's all they're for. To try to increase some traction.
Wow.
That's the entire idea behind that. And of course, I went with ion drives because I thought it was just funny. Like they last forever, and they don't provide very much thrust. But I'm like, hey, we'll give it a shot, right?
Well, hey, my best run didn't have any drives pointing down, so ions ought to help.
A little bit. It actually did help some. So this was the first attempt to land, or one of the attempts to land. And it didn't go so smooth, but, it turned around and it kept going.
Minimus is actually very forgiving.
Yes. And then I ran into a little
Well, it's forgiving and not forgiving.
There's
Yeah.
a little slight
True that.
problem that I think you guys will appreciate.
Are you gonna?
That fairing is on.
The cargo bay is on the other side, isn't it?
No.
The fairing is gonna explode.
The fairing won't jettison.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
So I try to land, and it's like, oh great. So now I'm going to have to do this again. So I try a couple of cutesy ideas, but basically I'm just going to have to land this thing again. So I take the fairing off, and this is actually how they look. They're seated happily on. This is an earlier design. So it's seated happily on top of it, riding down like little cowboys. I found myself thinking of Dr. Strangelove while I was landing this thing. And then when they were landed, decoupler, and you've got a nice little...
That's probably the most impressive the most satisfying decouple so far.
Yeah, so... and then, unfortunately, for reasons that I couldn't quite figure out, the ion drive wouldn't start. I was very sad. But I'm like, the design is fine. There's just something happened with the landing. So I eventually got it back. It's like, okay, now we got our ion drive. I'm like, can we get some ion drive force? I was trying to see if I could get any push from the ion drive in the original design. It doesn't do squat, but it was still funny to try. I had this idea that if it would provide some thrust, it would just be this, it could run forever and just slowly accelerate you. I thought it'd be kind of funny that way. It got to, 8 or 9 meters a second, and then just decided that was the limit of what it was willing to do without having horrible, terrible things go horribly wrong. So, yeah. That was
great.
Yeah, it was a pretty limited rocket. It couldn't do as much as I had planned. And so this is my original idea. I was going to do it on the flatlands. I'm like, it's going to work out beautifully. And of course, it had an occasional failure. Just to CPAIR, I decided that in honor of CPAIR, I would put some fairings on this time.
I love how you put the wrong cones on at first. Like, didn't you put medium cones on a large tank?
I did. So I put the wrong types on, so I had to play around a little bit with the fairings. And as you can tell, I use hydrogen too, so I liked it.
Wait,
but I'm like, you know what?
Why are you making fairings?
Just because their cones would interfere with the rocket above it. I'm like, they're not actually proper aerodynamic cones, but I'm going to make them look like it.
There's cones in this game, right?
Yes, and the size of the large ones didn't fit well. Unfortunately, this particular rocket had...
So you made aerodynamic cones out of fairings, essentially.
Yeah. Yes. It had a little bit of a tipping problem, as you could tell. This rocket did not want to behave nicely. I had to eventually put some fins on the bottom, and it still was not well behaved.
Y'all built some really big rockets.
Yeah, this thing has a habit of going in circles. Well, I need a lot of extra delta V because I'm just not very good at this game. So anyway, we finally get there. We land again, and this particular variation, I'd forgot to put the decoupler on.
Oh, that's so painful.
And of course, you also see the ion engines are actually on the wrong side. They're actually pushing up. So there's like multiple. So I try to start it and maybe actually get it to like break apart naturally. It almost worked. It unfortunately didn't.
You almost felt the same thing as I did. It was like, you know what? I only got one attempt to land this rocket.
So
one of my attempts, I had my rocket on the ground. It was kind of upside down, driving into the ground. I was like, oh, what if I can go while touching the ground?
And then there were a couple of failures along the way. Didn't quite make it. And then, of course, I do it again. And for whatever reason, I approved the design and the decoupler wasn't there again. So now I'm like, got to do it again. So now
you lost a fairing.
So I'm like, we'll try a landing a little too fast. Yeah, that. So we see a number of not particularly great landings, things not quite going right, parts breaking. It was an adventure. And then we finally get there. We fire off the solid rocket boosters just to see what they would do. They immediately plow me into the ground and cause a giant mess. So I'm like, you know what? We'll have a little bit of fun. And then, of course, I get some 20, 21, 22, but the thing is just very, very unstable at this speed. And I'm a little worried about how I could get to that speed, but then the deceleration would inevitably go horribly wrong.
That's pretty impressive, though.
Yeah. So
it really boiled down to like land, like where you land on Minimus.
Well, the flatlands are at least stable, so there's that advantage.
I would have had I think I would have had much more success had I landed where you guys landed.
So you can tell multiple failures, and then of course the occasional.
There you go.
Yeah, I had multiple times when I would load and it would just fall through. So this is just more examples of the problem that would happen as I decelerate and it would push forward and it would blow up. So I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit of a problem. And then occasionally it would have, as you can see, some truly awful ones. But we do finally actually get a proper start. And we have to enable the reactor because this thing is, it's got quite a bit of energy use. And so we started, and it's like, we're going to drive this thing full speed. And we're going to go and see what we can do. And I will spare you some of the speed, but essentially just gets faster and faster and faster. Gets to about 21.
That's pretty impressive.
At 21.4, it's still kind of holding up. Wow. You could argue that the legs might be a little bit. And then keep going. Did
build the best rover here?
He did.
So it's at 23.1, 23.3, 23.4, so I'm getting close.
You're still touching.
Yeah. And
still touching.
23.5, and then I shut the thing down because I don't want to go any farther. And then I just accept that this thing is not going to decelerate well. The deceleration is going to have problems, and I'm used to it. And so we're just going to take our 1-point loss and call it a victory. So
I'm pretty sure you're still decelerating faster than. Oh, just 1 point loss on damage. I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no.
So they just keep flying. So far, the only part that's been damaged is the front, and they're getting slower. It's slower.
I can't believe that you made it over that ravine.
I gotta say, that was impressive.
And then it finally stops. So we take a point of damage, but we hit 23.5. Wow. So, okay. You might have noticed. So this is where I bent the rules again.
Okay.
You might have noticed that the lander doesn't have a launch module.
I'm scared. So, okay.
So this is the point. So the landing module decouples at this point to form the lander. And there are two parts of this thing. Okay. Both with full crews. There's the support crew is up in the top. They have made it to Minimus. They didn't land on Minimus, but that's not what the rules stated. They said to get to Minimus. And they are in Minimus orbit. So
okay. Yep.
So we are going to leave the other team down on the ground. They happily next to the little thing. and we're going to send this boy home with a full crew.
Yep.
And that way I do not have to solve the problem of how to relaunch my rover, and I could just land the rover.
So there are
5 in there.
A full crew. Basically, you sent 2 crews to Minimus.
Yep. And there's a full crew on the planet, and there's a crew on this.
Yep.
And as far as I read the rules, and I've looked at those rules over and over again, this is completely legal.
No, it is 100% legal. I actually built that loophole in.
So I don't actually need to return the crap. That way the lander had to be very simple. It didn't need all that complexity. But there's a little problem, guys.
Oh no.
There's almost no torque on this, and the RCS jets are completely gone.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going to have a little challenge getting home. Now, fortunately, Kerbin is pretty much, if you just leave Minimus orbit, you're basically in a Kerbin orbit. So it's just a matter of getting your periapsis to the right place.
Uh-oh.
Lex, you there?
Oh no. Lex, you went robot.
Can you see me again? All right. Can you see me guys now?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Cybermen have
All right.
decided to release you as a hostage.
So the rocket, what I'm doing here is you'll notice it's every time it goes retrograde, I just fire up the engine again.
Oh, beauty.
I'm just trying to
The cloud.
drop
Wait till it flips and then fire the engines.
because I've got no control over this rocket. It's just a spinning mess. Of course, I could use the trick of going into high speed, but I thought that would be too cheesy. So anyway, I do have a landing. It's going to land. Yay, as you could tell.
It's
and
it's going to be a meteorite burning up in the atmosphere.
So
that's what it's going to be.
every time that it goes, it spins around. Every time, and so you just see this little rocket spinning, and it's like,
Why don't
okay.
you detach the engine? Let the mod.
I want to lower the periapsis because I want to get closer to the KSP at this point. Or KSC. It's like I'm actually trying. I'm going to land either way. But you see the just constant spin. This thing is a mess. So I finally do
you
actually
have electrical charge. Like, don't you have torque in the command module?
Yeah, it's just not enough to counter the effects. So, needless to say, I am. The parachutes drop, and I'm so excited. I've made it back, and then of course the Kraken hits.
No.
The parachutes fail.
No crack. No.
Parachutes fail, and so we go bounce, and then of course
Oh, you survived
the first time. So it really depends on whether you count that first one.
Water planet, where the ocean is 1 meter deep.
So at this point, I'm like, I've had a great run. I got no control on the landing. That's our run. So that's my submission.
Okay, so now we have to score this up. So we went back and looked at all of the different, looked at the videos and got all of our different timings. And so the first thing up is the fastest land speed record. This is the most important one. For 7 points, Lex comes in first at 23.5 meters per second. Minus 1 point for damage. With 3 points, I get 19.2 meters per second. And for 1 point, Pear comes in at 11.4. Shortest total mission time. Lex has, this is the speedrun time, sorry. Shortest total speedrun time. Lex has 3 minutes and 50 seconds from 0 meters per second to speed to 0 meters per second again. So that's 3 points. I'm 5 minutes and 32 at 2 points, and Pear's longer than that. We didn't actually look at 1 point. So Kerbals to Minimus orbit, Lex gets 4, Des gets 2, Pear gets 1. Kerbals to the surface are the same scores, 4, 2, and 1 for Lex, Des, and Pear. Now we get interesting. Kerbals back to the Kerbin's surface. I got 2 points for my 2 non-pilot Kerbals returned. Pear got 1 point, and Lex gets 0 points because he killed all his Kerbals. All the ones that returned anyway.
Yes, quite sad.
Yeah, bummer. Which means that we go to closest return to Kerbal Space Center. I was in visual distance at 31.9 kilometers, so I get 3 points. Pair splashed down, and somewhere not in visual distance.
I don't know if splashed down. I landed somewhere.
Well,
whether that be the ocean or the land, I'm not too sure.
I don't remember, actually, honestly. True. You weren't in sight. That's all. We didn't look because you weren't in sight.
I was in Kerbin. I had become one with my inner Kerbin.
That's right. Well, it's worth 2 points to land on Kerbin. And Lex gets 0 because...
How many points is it to land inside Kerbin? That's what I'd like to know.
Land inside the planet? 0.
I don't know, dude. I feel like there should be some points there.
I think my little splashdown would be lower final altitude.
Yeah, I think you achieved the all-time lowest altitude there, Lex.
Somewhere deep in the ocean.
Build a bunker buster and see how far you can get. So tell us.
So I got 3 points. Pair gets 2 points on that one. Lex gets 0. And then game clock. Pair comes in first with 62 days mission time.
Guys.
Yeah. I had 80 days. And then Lex is disqualified because dead. Dead Kerbals.
Then I take a further 2 points for violating a return safely.
The return safely mission parameter was violated.
Reunite Kerbals with their families, Lex, next time. Okay, how about?
Why is that worth any points at all? That's not important.
Yeah, it should be worth points. What should happen? We should just put in the rules somewhere that's like, when you land at the KSP, you have to like EVA your Kerbal out and like get them back to the Space Center, and there's a parade for you. That's what I'd say a return now has to be defined as.
You're being awfully strict in that.
So
there has to be a parade, and you have to EVA your Kerbal. Sorry, Des.
So point totals.
Des, what the heck are these people on about?
No, because I was distracted because I realized as I was reading back through the scores, we miscounted Lex's score.
What did I get wrong?
You didn't subtract the 1 point for the damage.
You're right. Oh, so you win. Congratulations.
Yep. I came in with 16 points. Lex had 15 points. The damage cost you the win.
But how many points did I have?
10! 10 points!
It's meaningful. It's very meaningful. I feel very proud.
So the damage really did cost you the win.
No, what cost me the win was that I missed 2 third places and took a penalty for not getting back.
Well,
so
okay,
it all
yes.
added
True.
up.
Really what cost you the win was crashing into Kerbin.
All right, Des, tell us about next week. What can we expect from next?
Okay.
Not next week, 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. Okay, so here's the thing. Y'all are going to hate me.
What's that?
So here's the utterly ridiculous objective.
Okay.
You have to build a Ninja Warrior style obstacle course in orbit around Kerbin and run it with a Kerbal on EVA.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Hey, buddy. Hey, everything's gonna be okay? Just blink twice if you need us to call somebody, okay? There's help for you.
Oh, this is gonna be a disaster.
There's help for your problem, okay?
Yes.
Fun.
It'll be fun, yeah, so...
End us off for the evening.
Well, you want me to do my old-timey radio voice again?
I don't know what you're going to do. I just wanted you to do something. That's what we pay you the big bucks to do, okay?
So I will say we should end by challenging our viewers to try the speed record on Minimus and see if they can beat us.
Ooh,
also, we have a
shout. You have a shout-out, Bodian.
Yes.
Thank you, my friend, for the comment in the feedback. If anybody has any feedback about what we do here on the Esoteric Gaming Crew, just leave a link, leave a message, leave a link. What do you think? You should do it this way.
Yeah, really, you try the speed run on Minimus. It's challenging.
Oh,
And then
it's harder than it looks.
yeah, post your video on our Discord, and we will take a look. Yeah, and then until next week, we're gonna be playing some Kerbal Space Program. And that's all I got.
All right, let me help you out here. This has been Dez, Lex, and Pear, and thanks for coming out to the Esoteric Gaming Crew. Hold on to your wallet and hold on your wallet and hold on tight. We gotta come up with a better
I don't know. Our podcast sign off doesn't really work here.
It doesn't work here. Lex, what's our new sign off, Lex? Tell us
Lex.
right now.
Yeah, just come up with one. I think not.
Yeah, no, too late, Lex. That's gonna be it, actually.
That's our sign off. Too late, Lex.
I think not.
I think not.
The Esoteric Gaming Crew. I think not.
All right, merch,
so
t-shirts.
Look
That's what we
next
need.
week when Lex comes up with our new slogan. That's it, the freaking ending of this jazz. But yeah, until next time, I guess.
All right, sayonara. Later.